Hello and welcome to the Galactic Core podcast. My name is Chef and I'm your host as each week I discuss the latest TV episodes, films, games and whatever else takes my fancy from the worlds of Star Wars, Marvel, DC and anything else nerdy and geeky in between. If this is the first time that you found this, then please do give us a follow on our social media pages. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and also Twitch, where I do, not always successfully, but I do try and game a couple of times a week. You can find all the links in the episode description, and please make sure that you're giving the show a like, a follow, and a review on whichever platform it is that you listen or watch on. It really does mean the world to hear that you are liking and enjoying the show. Right now, we're going to get straight into the main event, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode. So, welcome to this week's episode. Today, I'm going to be talking about all things Monsterverse, so Godzilla, Kong, and all the other monsters that go along with those two particular monsters. I'm really excited to talk about this, to be fair, because I've been watching the Monsterverse films again recently. Obviously, we've got another one on the way, which will be like part 5 of the series that they've done. And obviously, Godzilla and Kong have a long history of films and anime films and things like that. So I'm really excited to get stuck into this and talk about it. This is following on from the episode that I did last week, where I had a chat with David from the Why So Serious podcast about the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong crossover comic that's coming out. And so today we're going to be talking about the films that are on the way and that have already been as well. I've got a really good guest to join me today. I know this guy from an online Marvel group that we've been a part of for 9, almost 10 years now. We definitely have our creative differences along the way, which have been aired on other podcasts. So I'm really excited to finally get this guy on. I have a really good chat with him about everything. So please welcome to the show, my friend David. David, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. I just got off work, and I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about getting ripped right now, but I am. it's pretty great. So, no, I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Stoked. Sorry It took so long to get it together.
It's okay, man. It's always worth waiting to have a good guest on. So let's just jump straight into it then, to be fair. In terms of, just give everyone at home a bit of a detail about your nerd history. I know you're a big comic book fan. You sort of sent me some digital copies in the past that I was looking forward to have a read of some stuff. Obviously, we met in Marvel Group. You're someone who I know knows his history. So what is it about these sort of things and learning about these sort of things that you've always loved sort of growing up to where you are now?
I grew up in the American Midwest, very like sports rednecky, apple pie bullshit part of the country, and was never really my thing. Like most of my friends were like, big jocks growing up, and didn't have like a lot of people that were like into my shit. But like, I don't know, like because of that, like I grew up in like, I used to always joke that like Mario was my only friend when I was a kid. Like, and so, I've always, like you mentioned comic books. I've always been a big comic guy. The Marvel group that we met, I know it's like kind of cool these days to like dog on MCU for the things that they've put out the last few years, but like I'm always going to be a huge MCU fanboy. I don't give a shit. I love that.
Yeah.
And then just like Monsterverse stuff in general, I was real stoked that you had me on. I've always been like, I'm not by any means an expert, but I've been pretty much in love with the movie since I was a little kid. Ever since they used to be like, super late night showings, Sci-Fi Channel when I'm in elementary school, and this specifically the having an absolute brain fart here. I was going to say Lionsgate, the Legendary.
Yeah.
They're not all slam dunks, but I love them all. And I was super hyped throughout the entire thing. And you just mentioned that there was a new one coming out. I didn't even know that. I could see it going either way, honestly. But
yeah.
but yeah, that's, I don't know, nerd shit. Like nerd shit. Always into nerd shit.
Gotta love it as well. We're going to do a quick little plug for your band as well, because I know you've been putting in a lot of work for that recently, and over the years. To be fair, it's not like it's obviously a brand new thing. So just give us a quick chat about that, because I do want people to know about your band and go out and search and find for them if they want to.
Sure. Yeah. So it's called Shipwreck Carpathos. I've been doing it I just turned 37. I've been doing it since I was like 23, 24. But me and the dudes finished up recording a new record like 2 years ago. But then there was a bunch of stuff that got added post, so it literally took us, all this time to get it finished. First single came out a few weeks ago. The next single comes out in September. When's this episode going to be coming out?
Oh, this will be going out in a few days' time. Yeah.
Okay, so we haven't announced the official title of the record or the release date or anything, but Dunk Records from out in Belgium and 1,000 Arms in Montana here in the States are putting it out later this year. And yeah, it's been a long road. There's comic books that are coming with it eventually too, but that's a kind of like a back burner side project to it that'll see the light of day someday.
Nice. I like that. Well, let's jump straight in then.
Sure.
So when you hear the names like Godzilla and Kong, what immediately jumps to mind for you?
Honestly, my first memory whenever they pop up is always just like watching them when I was a little kid. And as a little kid, like, growing up in like the late 90s, early 2000s, in a time where like really shitty CGI kind of was like reigning supreme. But like as a little kid, I think it's fantastic. You know what I mean? And so I remember like liking these movies, but just like you see that it's just like a man in a rubber suit stomping out pictures, and like my 7, 8, 9-year-old kid like loved the movies, but was also just like, I'm too cool for this. Now I love it. Like now, like those are some of my favorites. And like obviously the satire of everything, the what the movies are really about, that they get lost on you. But yeah, just I take it back. It wasn't Sci-Fi Channel. It was TNT. We used to have it was Monster Vision. Joe Bob Briggs. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's like the redneck drive-in theater movie guy, right? TNT every Saturday night would do featured horror movies when I was growing up, and I would stay up all night long against my parents' wishes and watch those. And that's where I saw those first movies. That's honestly where I saw a lot of the horror shit that I got super into as a kid, like H.P. Lovecraft stuff. And oh God, what else? The first time I ever saw It was on there. Anyways, I'm rambling. But yeah, I've been in love with these characters since I was a kid, and pretty much anything that gets made, I'm going to watch it eventually.
Because they do have a lot of obviously different mediums, especially for Godzilla. Whether it's the old school films, the new school ones, whether it's anime, obviously comics. There's so much out there for something like Godzilla, and
really good too. The IDW ones, they're pretty silly, like they're pretty cheeseball, but they're really really fun. And I've been trying to watch some of the anime here lately. There's the trilogy that's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
That's it's not the I forget what they're calling this era. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's technically a part of that era, but it's not tied into any of them. Like the story's cool. I don't love like the super CGI anime style that's like kind of big right now, but like it's not bad on this one. But it's one of those. I'm not a huge anime guy. I like stuff kind of here and there, but it's one of those shows where it's just like everyone is just always screaming. Like no matter what the conversation is, no matter what the situation is, like nobody has the ability to speak and scream, and those get kind of overwhelming for me sometimes. But I'm going to power through eventually. I got about half the first one a couple weeks ago.
So when you heard that they were going to be starting up a new Monsterverse universe, starting with the Godzilla film, and then obviously bringing in King Kong, and obviously we've got other sort of monsters, because we're going to go through the films a little bit in a bit. But when they first said, we're going to do a new Monsterverse, this is the start of it, this is who's going to be in it, what was your initial reaction to that? Are you happy? Do you sometimes feel like Godzilla and King Kong are overdone? Because personally, I love Godzilla. I think he's really cool. To me, he's definitely the favourite monster out of all of them. But Kong, I've kind of get a bit bored with easily, or King Kong, simply because the previous films they've done, whether it was the old school ones or even like the Peter Jackson one, I find that they try to make them too epic, and it ends up being a little bit boring for my personal taste. So I always get excited by Godzilla, and I'm like, you've got to do something different with King Kong to sort of get me more intrigued about him and caring a bit more. But what were your reactions to the new Monsterverse coming out?
I'm always going to be excited about it, and I remember like when Godzilla got announced, I don't think that they announced the fact that they were doing like a full Monsterverse until a little bit after the initial release, which everybody, like, you assume, right? It's like just especially like for the time that it came out, it was like right when MCU was kind of like starting to be a pretty big thing. It was maybe 4 or 5 years into it.
2014, yeah, I think it's when the first one came out.
But I remember like hearing about it and going like, yeah, cool, of course I'll see that. But then I saw like the first time that I saw the trailer, when they there was a trailer that they did that was just the airdrop scene. And it was just the whole trailer was just like the first person perspective of one of the guys dropping in, and that shot where it's just like pitch black in the city because there's no power, and then you just see this slight reflection of like the moon or whatever it is, and you see that it's Godzilla's giant ass moon. Like that trailer was what got me super super stoked. And I honestly think, like I said, we'll get into them, but I think it's probably the best of this particular universe.
We'll certainly get a little ranking of them in a bit as well.
Yeah.
But what about Kong then? What's your thoughts on Kong? You're a long-standing character. I'm not sure who's been around longest, actually, whether it's been King Kong or Godzilla. I got a feeling that maybe Kong goes back a little bit earlier.
I believe that Kong is earlier, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to Google it right now. But I'm pretty sure, because like the first Kong movie was in the 20s, right?
20s or 30s, something like that. That's why I was thinking it probably just predates Godzilla by about 20 odd years.
Oh, I guess not. So 33. So, yeah. And then I thought the first Godzilla's, 54. Yeah. So, but same thing. I love King Kong. Love the old claymation goofball falling off the building. I love the Peter Jackson one. I feel like it is something that's been done over and over again, but I feel like for the most part, each person that's done it has had like kind of their own version of like, what it is. Peter Jackson's was, he was the story, but it was like more about the island, it felt like, which is funny because it felt like Kong Skull Island was not more about Skull Island. You know what I mean? I forget where I was going with this. But no, so Skull Island, though, again, like those first two are definitely the best. I go back and forth between which one I think is better.
So then, what about others in the Monsterverse? You got Ghidorah, Mothma, that we obviously get to see in some of the later films as well. Are there any other monsters outside the big two that really sort of get you excited and you always feel like you want to see more of them?
I like all of them. Ghidorah's had, I think, like 5 different origins on like what it actually is. Like sometimes it's an alien, sometimes it's like a genetically made thing. Sometimes it's just like the transdimensional, which I guess that's still just an alien. But I always like it. And like same thing with Rodan, same thing with Mothra. There was, I'm trying to remember which other ones were in King of the Monsters, because there was at least a couple other ones.
And they had the one from the first Godzilla film that the name
And I will
escapes
say, I
me as
didn't like
well.
that. The Mutos, the
Yeah. Oh, that's it. The Mutos. Yeah.
weird Moth thing, like they were cool, but it's just like, dude, just like don't just do Mothra. Like it's just like don't give us this new stuff. You bought the rights to do these things, then just do these things. Don't make up anything new. We don't need it. Like,
But yeah, they
and
had
they were, I mean, they
Ghidorah.
were fine, but like, uh, I guess if you need something to set the bar so you can then like raise the bar on the new one, right? But like King of the Monsters, I thought that one was fine. Like it didn't have the magic I feel like that the first two did. Like the first two felt like they were really trying to like consciously and like what's the word I'm looking for? Just like very thoughtfully build a world, you know? And then they got to the last two and they were just like, yeah, whatever, let's just smash some stuff.
Well, let's jump in a bit more to that first one then. Godzilla comes out in 2014. A nice sort of better introduction, I thought. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. What was it like? 1998 was the last sort of big Godzilla film that came out. Where to me, it's a bit of a classic, but it's a bit cheesy at the same time, wasn't it? So.
And like I was kind of the perfect age. So what it was like 2000, 2001 when it came out, or like a little bit earlier than that. So I was like right in that like late elementary school, early middle school kind of spot, and like Matthew Broderick was still kind of relevant.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot, and then like the soundtrack for that movie was awesome. You had like there was that Green Day remix in Brain Stew,
Jamiroquai,
yeah. And so like is this when like Tamagotchi and Gigapets were like super like at their peak, right? And I had a little green egg Godzilla Tamagotchi that was like supposed to be like from the movie, so like I was kind of at the perfect age like to love that movie when it came out. Like I was already kind of into it a little bit, and I can definitely acknowledge the fact that like it's not a great movie. It's real cornball, but it for what it is, just like a dumb, just like fun Godzilla movie. It's fucking fantastic. Like but yeah, so like seeing like the trailer though for the new one, and I didn't mean to cut you off too. Well, sorry. But seeing the trailer for the new one, like that scene that I talked about, like it got me really hyped because like when they announced it, I thought it was going to be something like the Matthew Broderick one, and seeing that they were trying to like do an Americanized Godzilla that was like actually kind of serious, like didn't look too like campy and silly, which like the camp is the best thing about Godzilla, right? But when you try to do Godzilla seriously, like you end up like still ending up with a kind of camp, but like not a good one. You know what I mean? And so like seeing that like somebody looked like they were trying to do it and like they were probably going to do it well was like a first. I was pretty about it. So,
but in this film, we get to me like my favorite Godzilla. This has been. Didn't necessarily like the style they tried to do at the start of it, where where they had that first fight with the Muto, where they're on the train in Hawaii or whatever, going around it, and they don't really show them fighting, but you see his like feet a lot, and that bugged me because I'm like, it's fucking Godzilla. Why are you trying to hide as if we don't know who this is? The film's called Godzilla. We want to see him fighting. That's the whole point of it. It's something that we're going to chat a little bit about all of these films, is that sometimes they put too much stuck into the human element of the films, which I get annoyed about because they get so distracted by telling the human part of the story. I'm like, no one gives a fuck. Like, let's just watch the monsters fight.
I like that though. Like, especially when you're watching like all like the old like Toho movies. Like, yeah, they're about monsters, but they're almost always something else. They're almost always like those. They're very political movies a lot of times. Especially, did you see Shin Godzilla?
Yeah.
God, I just saw it for the first time a few months back, but just like how the whole movie really ends up just being about like government bureaucracy and how it doesn't fucking help anybody. You know what I mean? How they have to have like a committee to talk to this committee to see about this board and see if this team wants to think about possibly starting to plan some kind of a plan to address the monster that is actively destroying the country. You know what I mean? And like there's certain ones that are, about like, I mean, it's a little bit like on the nose, but like, like climate crisis and things like that. And um, uh, there's always some kind of like some kind of political element, depending on like what era, like when they're coming out, um, that like gives it a very human story against the backdrop of this very silly thing that's happening. And I love those. At the same time, I love, just watching giant monsters beat the shit out of each other. But it's it's two different kinds of enjoyment for me.
That's fair. But in this first film, we basically get the Maximoff twins as a married couple, and and I think, to be fair, yeah, they do a good job. This is probably, to me, I'm not sure which I prefer more as the human element, whether it's this or whether it's Kong Skull Island, simply because we get Tom Hiddleston and Samuel L. Jackson and Brie Larson do, I think, a tremendous job in Skull Island. But in this film, was it Aaron Taylor Johnson is his name, if memory serves off the top of my head? I think he does a pretty decent job on this.
I always like him in whatever he's in. He's one of those people who's like even Craven. That movie's gonna be dumb. It's gonna be a really bad movie, right? Like it's gonna be irredeemable. But like I like him enough that like I might go watch it, or I might at least pirate it and watch it. Like, yeah, I like that dude a lot.
Yeah, he does do a decent job on this film. But what's even if you said, we didn't necessarily know at the time it was kicking off a new Monsterverse franchise, but what was your initial thoughts then as like a first installment of this particular series overall?
I thought it was great. I thought it was pretty smart to just like, right away establish the big one that everyone's going to get excited about. Because like you said, it had been such a long time since there had been a Godzilla, like an American-made, like big blockbuster one. The only thing that I think they could have done better is like lean a little bit more into the Monarch side of that first one, because like they established that it's always been there, but like they barely mention it, outside of just some real superficial stuff. But on the whole, no, I think it's a solid kickoff, and I like the idea of going back and doing like a prequel after the fact. Like because of that, and because they knew they were doing that, that's part of why I wish they would have leaned like a little bit more into the Monarch side of things. That's my only real complaint. But other than that, I thought it was about as perfect as a movie like that can be.
That's fair. And with, as you said, previous iterations of Godzilla maybe been a bit campy, a bit goofy, as this being that serious modern day technology version of Godzilla that we're doing for like, real life cinema as opposed to animation or anything like that. To me, he was pretty damn fucking perfect. I love the way they managed to do his like atomic breath as well. I thought it was pretty spectacular. To me, yeah, this is definitely the best looking Godzilla as well, and the best raw, I find, as well. Sort of like it's something that they either, again, like it's because of, I think, maybe technology or just the way they record these things. His raw has always been either a bit goofy or a bit too dinosaur-like, which you can understand. He's a big fucking dinosaur lizard at the end of the day. But I think they got everything pretty much spot on for Godzilla in terms of the look, the atomic breath, the raw, everything.
And I really like, they did a really good job of like giving him a face that has like just enough expression without coming off like super cartoony.
That's fair. Let's move on then to Kong Skull Island. As I said, this is probably my second favourite out of the four that they've done so far for this one. A slightly different take on Kong than what I'm used to seeing, although obviously, the similarities are still there with previous ones. But as you said, this is like a prequel that went before the Godzilla film because it was set in the 70s. Great cast for this film. What were your initial thoughts to this film?
So I love John C. Reilly, and I think it might be like one of my favorite performances he's ever given. He's so good in it, and like it's like the character is obviously like a pretty simple concept. You know what I mean? Like they didn't really do anything like groundbreaking with it, but he was just so good in that role. I really everybody was, and it was good. My only like real complaint about it was that like it was very clearly made to be a 3D movie. So there's a few shots in that movie that are just a little gimmicky, which like, I mean, it's a King Kong movie. It's a gimmicky, right? But like the that scene where they're going through the big graveyard, and like there's that green gas that's like neon green,
yeah.
and the scenes in the helicopter when they first get through, like the giant close up on like Samuel L. Jackson's glasses with the fire exploding, like a lot of that stuff was a little bit goofy, but it can be forgiven because like I feel like this one probably has the best story all around, and it definitely has the most likable characters all around. I feel like everybody else in the movie, in all of the movies, with like maybe the exception of Bryan Cranston, all of the characters are pretty forgettable. I feel like from the others.
Sorry, forgivable, did you say?
Forgettable.
Oh, forgettable, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm still slightly annoyed that Bryan Cranston's character was marketed to be sort of like a big part of that original film, and then he was only in it for the start and then gets killed. So
he was that was kind of like, it was like right after Breaking Bad ended, right? Or like at least like it had been recent enough that he was still like riding that hype pretty hard.
Yeah, still hot property. Yeah.
I actually just did like my like 16 billionth rewatch of the whole franchise last week. I love that show. But yeah, no, but even being in for such a short period of time, he still has like one of the most like one of the more memorable like performances, I feel like, of all four movies. And like even like the actors that are big in those movies, it's just that like you said, like it's the further into the movies you get, the less of like a human story there starts to be. But I think that Kong in particular, though, like nailed it. Like you get really invested in everybody that's in that movie, even the ones that are shitbags. And I feel like the characters in that one more than the others drive the story.
Talking of shitbags in the particular film, though, Samuel L. Jackson's character in this film, I know it's one that we tend to sort of like, it's a very cliche character we seem to get in big monster movies where some guy is hell-bent on killing this monster that's killed all of his men or something like that. I never find the reasoning good because you're like, this dude's just wiped out almost your entire platoon. This giant ape, essentially. What makes you think you're going to be the one that can kill him? And that motivation always seems a bit crappy to me. What are your thoughts on that particular kind of movie trope?
Overall, yes, I think it's a stupid trope. I liked it a little bit more in this one because it felt like they set him up pretty good, like in the scenes leading up to them getting to the island, where it was clearly less about killing this animal and more just about like, we're not at war anymore. I don't know how to go back to the real world. I have to murder something. Like I have to keep killing things because it's the only thing I know how to do. And like they don't like really lean into that super hard, but like they kind of like imply that towards like the beginning of the movie, that like this dude just like doesn't want to go back to civilian life because he doesn't know how to do it. And so like, of course he's just going to go balls to the wall after whatever thing you put in front of him.
I think, to be fair, that's sound reasoning.
Fucking Americans, man, just want to. It's
trying to kill everything.
All the, yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. All the cliches are true. Everybody over here just wants to murder everybody. It's whatever. Just
we're used to it by now. It's okay. What I did like about how they set up Kong in this movie is the fact that they said he's still young, he's still going to grow, he's still going to get bigger, and the addition into this as well that his parents were there originally on the island and were killed by the skull crawlers.
Yeah,
and we do get to see that graveyard. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that's not something that I seem to remember being part of any of the other original sort of King Kong films, is it?
No, I don't. I can't think of a single one where they talk about like any kind of
like family, really.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny because like Godzilla's huge, right? What was big enough that like it fucked and made that? we have like right. Um, yeah, I've always thought that was kind of funny. But no, yeah, I liked that too, and like I liked King Kong is like kind of like one of like the only like classic um like monster movie monsters that like is like very specifically like an American creation. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And where was I going with this? Like all of the other kaiju, like I always, like anytime they're gonna do like a big American like blockbustery kind of thing, I'm gonna go see it. But like I like the Japanese made films
Mm.
better. And like I like it's really hard to say that without just being like I like the Japanese. I use the word films instead of movies, you know what I mean? But like it is what it is. But like having a character like this that is like more rooted in like American cinema, um, and so like you have like the same like people, you have Hollywood essentially like doing this thing over and over again. A lot of times when you get that, you just like you kind of get shittier and shittier and shittier versions. Like, but this is like one of those rare cases where I feel like it really has kind of like evolved from movie to movie, and I genuinely think that this is probably my favorite iteration of King Kong.
I'd certainly agree with that. It's definitely one that's got me more interested in him. As I said, I found the previous versions of films when I've watched them just a little bit dull, not overly exciting, just something that hasn't really kept my attention. You can have a nap, watching it on the sofa on a Sunday afternoon. So
I like him. But like, he's always been like one of the more like uh sympathetic of the monsters, and I like that they really really leaned into that with this particular franchise and like gave him like almost some humanity.
Yeah, they definitely do, and it's something that we see later on in Godzilla versus Kong as well. They lean a bit more into his connection with humans, don't they? So, but the next film in the franchise, we've got obviously King of Monsters. This to me I actually quite enjoyed this. Again, the human element of it, maybe they lean on it a bit too much, in terms of like Millie Bobby Brown's character getting in the middle of it and stuff like that was maybe a bit too much for me. But
Yeah.
in terms of I loved this iteration of Ghidorah. The way that they sort of played that they found all these titans now stacked around the earth in different conditions and had them all sort of encased, and the fact that they use a particular frequency to get them out was maybe a smarter way of doing it, to sort of like, I just really enjoyed this movie overall in terms of just monsters fighting monsters, really.
And that's honestly that's about as far as I enjoyed it. Like it's fun, and I've seen it a couple of times. But the story was just so fucking goofy. Like terrorist organization needs to unleash monsters on the earth in order
that
to
bit was
fix
dumb.
the earth, and then they get to the end. Oh, turns out the giant monsters are gonna kill everything. Who fucking knew? You know what I mean? Like it's just it felt like they didn't even really try with the plot, which is weird because like it felt like they tried really hard with the tools they used to move the plot forward, like the machine that like gives off whatever I can't think of the name of it. Like the explanations for a lot of the things were actually really really cool, and if I feel like if they would have just like taken the effort and the detail that they put into like those parts of it, if they would have put that into the actual story, that could have been an incredible movie. And instead I just felt like it's pretty good. Like I liked it, but it's I feel like it wasn't on par at all with the first two.
What do you make of the monster battles in this? Because we basically have Godzilla versus Ghidorah. We have Rodan versus Mothma. In the modern day of CGI that we're getting at the moment, where everything is expected to look a lot better and a lot more realistic, I thought they did a pretty good job of how the monsters tend to look in these films.
Yeah, visually it was really cool. All of the monster designs I liked a lot. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, like I remember that like definitely being the best part is just like the actual fights. And at that point, I mean, that's why most people were going for it anyways. It's just It's like adult Power Rangers, right? But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, and like, I always pronounce her name wrong, but the woman that plays Millie is
Millie
Emma,
Bobby Brown.
the one that plays her mom.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
I always pronounce it wrong, but was Emma her name? Was that the name of the mom? Emma or
Emma. Yeah.
Emma? Yeah. I always like her a lot. She's a fucking great actress. And like Millie Bobby Brown was fine. Like, and the guy too. Never remember his name either. He's always did like bit roles in like the late '90s, early 2000s. But like everybody was fine. It was acted fine. It just like it felt like there was like way less intention that went into it than the first two, which will happen when you do something that long.
It's the fact that they obviously were then from Skull Island onwards, where each bit's sort of world building for the next one, isn't it? Really. So in this particular film, you get the fact that they go down and they find sort of Godzilla's underwater base, if you want to call it that, or underwater home. That's sort of like he goes through these tunnels and is able to. That's how he's able to go around the Earth so quickly, and it would lead to sort of like an inner Earth area.
Yeah.
And the fact that they set off a nuclear bomb to basically help heal him a bit quicker, and he comes out super nuclear. Because I love that shot when Ghidorah's been sort of lured to that football stadium or whatever it was, and Godzilla sort of turns up, and he again from maybe like a replay from the first one, you just see his legs stomping through, but everything's melting around him because he's like super radioactive now. Yeah. And I'm like, that's pretty badass, because then like I just love that sound as well when he's like sort of like amping up to do his atomic breath, and like whoop, 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 and then this is what I love about these films, to be fair. It's like, forget a lot of the, like I said, to me, you can take a lot of the people out of it and just have more of those bits in there, and it would be a lot more worthwhile for me.
That's fair.
But that's what I love about those sort of bits. Just I just love Godzilla. To be fair. I just think he's so badass and gets in there and just rips Ghidorah apart. To be fair, Ghidorah doesn't stand after getting his ass whooped for quite a lot of this movie. Being then like super amped with the radiation, he just turns up and kicks ass at the end. So.
Yeah. And then all of the existing ones, and I don't remember if they explain it in the fourth, but like they just kind of like go away.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them got obviously woken up by Ghidorah or whatever, or by that machine. But then I'm not sure who half of them are. So obviously we know that Mothra unfortunately dies in this film, as obviously does Ghidorah. But Rodan seems to have survived. There was a Muto in there. There was a giant woolly mammoth. Don't know who that is. There was a giant spider-looking thing as well, if memory serves.
Was that the thing from the bamboo forest in Kong?
Possibly. That's a good shout. It might have been that. But yeah, just basically, I don't know whether these were just random titans that they decided to throw in there, or if they actually have any place in sort of like Monsterverse lore at all. It was interesting to see a bunch of different ones in there.
Yeah, I remember there being like a good handful of other ones, but truthfully, it's been a while since I've seen it, and I can't remember what all. I'm trying to see if I can look it up.
To be fair, I don't know why I haven't looked at it myself to go and see. Were these actually genuine monsters that they have in there, or are they just random ones that they decided, these would look cool if you have like a spider looking one and a woolly mammoth one and stuff like that? So
I can't find it. Yeah, no, I remember there were a handful, but I can't remember what all ones were in there. But like, yeah, what ones are there are just kind of like not anymore once we get to the fourth one. And I feel I watched it a couple times when it came out, and I can't remember any kind of explanation they give for like where they all went. Just like good fight, good game, going back to bed.
Yeah, they all literally, because I think in the next film, which we're obviously going to talk about next, they literally say that like there's not been a single sighting of Godzilla or anything for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Since that last film. So like they literally all just bowed down to Godzilla as the king of monsters and then just fucked off. Yeah. Like nobody knows what they are, what they're doing. They've just vanished into thin air apparently. So the Mutos are off chewing on some nuclear waste somewhere. The spider's back sort of with its bamboo legs hiding somewhere in the It's presumably in the Asian rainforest somewhere. But yeah, God knows where they all went. I hope we get to a bit more of an explanation of where all the rest of the Titans are coming up, because after, obviously, we've got a fifth film on the way. But the last one of this particular set, we've got Godzilla versus Kong. And this ends up being a three-way battle, to be fair, because we do get a couple of Godzilla versus Kong battles in this one.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of characters coming together from all the previous films, as well as some new and introduced. But then we get, obviously, Mechazilla thrown into the mix as well for this one. You rolled your eyes there. So hit me with your thoughts on this one.
I was so fucking hyped for this movie, and I didn't like it that much. It just, like, it is so far from the tone of the first Godzilla. You know what I mean? It just, like, this was like this movie was like the jump the shark for me. Concept was cool. I like the whole Hollow Earth thing. Their explanation for what it was, I think, was a little bit more fantastic than it needed to be. But the fact that there was just like this axe just there for King Kong, and like the fact that like King Kong would also like see this and use it as an act, like it was all, and like, and again, we're back to like stupid people. Like, I don't even remember the exact plot, but I remember that I know there's like it's like a power company or something like that, right? Like, so, or like some kind of
big tech company,
something involved in like in like energy, are trying to like draw him in, right, to like get whatever they can out of him. It's just like, yeah, the thing that's almost destroyed the world several times in the last decade, let's try to lure that guy out. You know what I mean? Just,
well, I actually watched it this afternoon, to be fair, because I've been watching them all again recently. And yeah, they basically go to Hollow Earth because there's a giant energy signature there, and they managed to get a sample of it, and they're using that energy signature to power their Mechazilla suit. Which, first of all, the most ridiculous part about that is the fact that some little robot in the middle of Hollow Earth manages to get a sample of this, and they just transmit the energy signature to the base back in Hong Kong, and they're somehow managing to replicate that immediately and feed it into the Mechazilla suit to power it. And it's just like, I don't think that's quite how it works. You can't just like send the radio signature and go, that's it. You can just match that now, and with our current electricity, and that should be fine. And then the fact that using that particular kind of energy from Hollow Earth then triggered the Ghidorah skull that they have to like take over the suit and basically run it and become its own entity. That was a little bit fantastical. That's a bit ridiculous.
It was a little silly. And the thing is like, if that's the tone that they would have set up from the beginning, like, we're gonna do a borderline cyberpunk, super over the top, absolutely ridiculous, like Godzilla franchise, like, cool, I'm on board. Like, let's do it. It's just the fact, like I said, like the tone that they established in those first two movies was so good, and they did such a good job setting it up to then just like go. Like, we don't fucking care. You're gonna watch it. You know what I mean? Like that feels like what they did for the last two. All that to say, I'm gonna see more. Like I said, I didn't know that there was another one that got announced until we sat down. I'm hoping that for a while there, like what their plan was, or at least like what they were talking about was going to happen, was that there was going to be a Monarch TV show.
I did hear that, yeah.
I never heard what happened about it, but like, that would have been cool as hell. And I hope it's something that still happens. Just like, just smaller level, just monster TV start back in
I heard that was going to be set sort of, but either it was going to be set maybe, I can't remember when they said it was going to be set, but it was going to be before the modern day that they're currently in. It was going to be set in either like, well, I think either like the 60s or like the 80s. So it's going to be set just before or just after the original King Kong.
Cool as shit. Because that's the other thing. They get through Skull Island that does all this work to set up Monarch, and then like they don't really talk about Monarch that much, other than just people showing up and being like, "I'm Monarch. You've
Hmm.
established who we are, so you know that I'm in charge." Like that's like, they took all the time to like establish this lore just to kind of like not really do anything with it.
That's fair, especially in the most recent films. There's sort of like Monica popping up, and they got like the dude from the film before, Bobby Millie Brown's dad in this film. He's just like the head of Monarch now or something, or
Yeah,
head of operations for Monarch or something. And you just see like Monarch Relief Center set up in the wake of a Godzilla attack, and it's just like, why are they the ones setting this up? Why isn't the government doing it? Why is
yeah.
this company doing it? But yeah, it would have been nice to see a bit more Monarch. But
And like, it sounds like I'm shitting all over them. Like, don't get me wrong. I love all four of these movies. I love all four of them, pretty much every single one for different reasons. um, but I just, I feel like the last two in particular, just like, I feel like they could have been so much cooler than what they ended up being.
I think whenever they announce it's something versus something, so obviously Godzilla versus Kong. So yeah, we're going to have some epic battles in this particular film, but because it's two massively popular characters coming together for a battle, there always were going to be two things that happened in this film. One, it was unlikely there was ever, obviously neither of them were going to outright die.
Yeah.
But it's always unlikely that they make one of them an outright winner at the same time, or they have a battle and they give them a common enemy to battle at the end, so they come together and then respect each other at the end. But throughout this film, we see that Godzilla. Well, we get told obviously that it can't be two alpha titans out there. It's one or the other, and this is reiterated by the fact that as soon as Kong's sort of out in the open, Godzilla comes straight after him. They have that battle in the ocean, but then when they're in Hong Kong, they have their sort of second battle. And Godzilla wins, let's be fair. He like basically gets Kong to submit. He's like, you submit to me or I'm going to kill you, in like his screeching way that he does, and that they roar each other. So really, after having the film before where Godzilla is crowned the king of the monsters, to me it was almost nice in a way that they reiterated that in this, and the fact that Kong's out there and he's still a badass and he can probably take down a lot of the other monsters, but he's still second in that pecking order to Godzilla.
Yeah.
And Godzilla is still the king. What do you reckon about that?
I truthfully haven't thought that deep into it. But yeah, that is pretty cool. I need to go back honestly and watch Godzilla vs. Kong. I almost did it last night, and I ended up just not getting to it because I haven't seen it since it first came out, but it wasn't that long ago. Yeah, like you said, like they talk, like I can't remember what the tagline was for it, but it was literally something like "One will fall" or something like that, And it's of course you're gonna do Mechagodzilla and be that will be the one. You know what I mean? I think everybody kind of saw that coming a mile off, like you said, like pretty predictable. Like no one's going for the story; they're going to just watch these guys fight. But yeah, I do like that they kind of did it in a way where they like kind of gave each one some respect, Because
they do have that moment after, somehow Mechazilla pretty much wipes out Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then Kong turns up with his radioactive axe and kicks the crap out of Mechazilla. So it's sort of, everyone wins around. and then they go away respecting each other at the end of it and just like, cool, we'll just leave each other be and let us go our own way. So knowing that they're going to be teaming up again in this next film, I'm trying to remember what it's called now. It was Godzilla Kong New Empire or New World Order?
The New Empire. I listened
New
to
Empire
talking about it. I wonder if it...
Because there's not been too much information. I know that they basically gave us a look at the title screen of obviously the new logo for this film when it was announced. Mm-hmm. But apart from that, I don't think they've really given us too much more information about it. So
the premise on Wikipedia right now is pretty vague. It says this latest entry follows up the explosive showdown of Godzilla vs. Kong with an all-new cinematic adventure, pitting the almighty Kong and the fearsome Godzilla against a colossal undiscovered threat within our own world, challenging their very existence and our own. Blah, 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 blah. So it's like Godzilla and Kong, they're gonna fucking fight again, so you better be there. Like, let's, and I will.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be there, aren't we? So, I mean, an unforeseen threat. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, they can be as vague about that as they want because either they're taking something that we haven't thought about from maybe the lore, or they're just inventing something new for them to team up against. What are your expectations? I'm
Oh,
guessing that you're hoping it's going to be more like the first films rather than the seconds.
that would be great. It's looking like so I haven't seen the teaser trailer yet, but it's looking like it's another giant ape, like an orangutan or something like that, which is I don't know. I hope that's not what it is. It feels a little silly to be like, you guys want to see something real crazy this time? We're gonna do a slightly bigger version of the main thing. Like it's just so I hope that's not what it is. But like I said, I'm gonna be stoked and I'm gonna enjoy it no matter.
Some long lost relative of Kong's that's been in the Hollow Earth for all this time, that was sent away by his family in previous years gone by and has come back for his revenge now. That's what it sounds like.
Like I don't know how much of these are. I don't know how many of these are like fan made things and how many of them are real. I'm gonna guess that most of them are fan made, but like I'm googling it right now and everything I'm seeing is just Kong and Godzilla standing next to another ape who is red. Like remember that game Primal Rage?
Yeah. Is that what it looks like?
Pretty much just what it looks like. Is player 2 wanted to play as the same character. So they
Dear
just
me.
slightly changed the color.
Where would you like to see this franchise go? Because obviously there's going to come a time when they either bring it to an end with a particular film, or they're just not that interested in making any more. Sometimes these franchises just tend to die out, or they just don't get the cinema response or the box office response, I should say, that they're hoping, and therefore it kills off the chance of doing any more films. But given the opportunity to have a good ending to this particular franchise, what would you like to see them do?
Honestly, they're at a point where they should probably quit. Like the only like I said, I'm going to see anything. I think the thing that would excite me the most is if they actually did do a Monarch series. If they're going to continue to do movies, I guess the one thing that I would really see that there's never been like a blockbuster type version of this stuff made would be it'd be cool to see Ultraman.
That'd be good.
Which I just found out that the director that did Shin Godzilla has done a few already. Like he did Ultraman, and there's like 2 or 3 more coming up on top of the new new Godzilla movie, and I need to check all those out. But go ahead.
So no, sorry, I was going to say. I mean, I've talked a lot on this podcast about the fact that I like deaths in movies. I like people to die. I don't like the happy endings for everything. Do you see either of these guys really being killed off in any particular films, or do you just see them being given a happy ending in the non-good sense, of course?
I don't think they'll ever really kill them, and if they do, they'll do some kind of like comic book sci-fi nonsense where like, oh, we killed him and then he stayed dead for like 30 years, then it turned out that like his heart was just beating like once per year, and so we just had no way. I think I could see him trying to pull some bullshit like that, but I don't think they'll ever really kill him off, either one of them.
It's random because I also was thinking originally that they wouldn't kill either of them off, but I could potentially see if they were having if they said, right, this is the final film of the franchise, I could potentially see them killing off Godzilla, but in that martyr kind of, he does something to save everyone kind of way, and Kong's the one that gets to live on because he has more of that emotional connection to humans, whereas Godzilla kind of just does what he wants.
I will say it would be cool. What would be kind of like a neat premise for a Monarch series is if they did kill off Godzilla, like do a final movie and murder him, and then have the show be about like the fallout from that. Like, oh yeah, this giant threat, but also like the only protector that Earth like really has, you know what I mean, died, and now you have just like dozens of these smaller things that are like fighting for it. Like that's kind of what King of the Monsters was, but like do like a King of the Monsters kind of thing where you take out the main contender and it really is more like a battle for the throne kind of thing. And do like a story about like monarch across the world dealing with that and trying to, that could be cool.
Nice.
But again, where we're talking fan theory things, we're like, how often has a fan theory for anybody ever been accurate?
It would be good though. Godzilla's dead. Kong slopes off back to Skull Island and isolates himself again from the world and doesn't want any part of it. And the rest of the Titans are there trying to vibe for the top spot. I think that would be quite a cool idea, actually. But, what did you make of the original idea that this cinematic universe was supposed to cross over with Pacific Rim?
Oh God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the original plan was that the two worlds were supposed to cross over, and they were supposed to then become one universe. And that obviously they never did any more of the Pacific Rim films because the second one flopped that badly.
So I never actually saw either one. Isn't Pacific aren't the monsters in that one supposed to be like old gods? Isn't it supposed to like technically be like isn't Cthulhu like just kind of like the unnamed but everybody knows kind of like boss of that world or some shit like that? That's what I've heard.
I think the way that they did it was that there were these basically like colonizers, these like aliens or different dimensional beings that created these kaijus to come here and terraform the planet to be to their liking so they could take it over. And these were the kaiju that we see in the films were the original dinosaurs. But the Earth wasn't to their liking back then. So 65 million years later, they've come back and everything's to their liking now in terms of atmosphere. Terraform the Earth again and get it how they want, so they can take it over. I never quite bought into that as a good thing, as a good explanation for what was going on. I'm like, if they're just monsters from another dimension, just let them be monsters. Why are they these like cloned beasts and stuff that they've been physically made and grew and then sent here to kill everyone?
Everyone that like all of my friends that know the things that I like I've been told that I would probably really like the first one, and it's on the list. It's just one I haven't got to. But no, I did not know that was a plan. That's kind of hilarious.
The first Pacific Rim, was actually decent. It was good enough as a film. Idris Elba does a really good job in it, as he does with most stuff, to be fair. Enjoyable if you've not watched it.
The animated?
I've watched some of them, yeah. I've still got a few on my Netflix list to get through. Because I don't want to say I struggle with animated things or anything in that sort of anime stuff, but it takes me a while to get into watching animated things. I tried to do that with some of the Pacific Rim stuff as well, to be fair, and I sort of watch it for a few episodes, and then I might not watch it again for months, and then I'll go back to it. And it's the same with the Godzilla. Sometimes, again, I sit there and I'm a little bit bored because it hasn't quite grabbed my attention as much. I mean, anyone that knows me knows I'm more of a sci-fi space enthusiast than most things. So it's something. Yeah, I've watched a few of them, and I do think they're actually quite good. To be fair, to give them their dues.
You might be into the Netflix Godzilla animated trilogy. Like I said, I've only gotten about I haven't been able to finish it because it's like not my kind of anime, but it's on my list to finish. But it's about like basically Godzilla 1 and what humanity survived has like left the planet and are living on this giant like space station spaceship.
Yeah, I think I've watched that first one.
Yeah, and then I don't remember the reason why they end up like going, like some ended up going back. But I watched about half of that first one before I needed a break. And it's mostly just the dialogue that I have a hard time with, because like I said, it's just like everybody's just screaming all of the time. But story's cool. I need to get back and finish those.
Let's have a last word on then, knowing what you know about them from comics, the various films, and everything that we've seen of Godzilla and Kong. Who genuinely wins in an all-out battle? Forget what we've seen in the films or anything like that. Just in terms of raw power, raw execution, IQ, and ability. Who actually wins in a proper battle of Godzilla versus Kong?
I think it's definitely Godzilla. Like, if for no other reason that like he's just way fucking bigger. End of the day, he's a bigger monster. He's a tougher monster. Like literally, like both like and like literally like your skin is made of stone. Like when you factor in like being able to shoot any number of different things depending on which one you're watching. Shin Godzilla's like multi-directional body and everything like that. But yeah, no, it's Godzilla.
I think we come to the same conclusion on that one. That's fair enough.
Once.
So, well, let's talk about that, shall we? Let's get this one out in the way because we've both been on Brett Scott's Marvel Plus podcast, and there was a comment I made back in the day about a character from Black Widow, Yelena. And I put a post up in our Marvel group saying I didn't think she was all that as a character. I think she was a bit overhyped, and you called me out on Brett's podcast.
I think she's Black Widow with more personality.
Oh, really?
I feel like, which like not like don't get me wrong, like I like Natasha Romanoff is a great character, but like Yelena in the comic books is. She's literally like Black Widow B team. She's exactly what she is. She's just like another character that they gave the name to, right? She's fine, but like I feel like they made like just like the right kind of like she's funny and quippy, but like not in like a like MCU classic way where like it's forced. You know what I mean? Like she's potentially more of a badass than Natasha. She's been through, I don't want to say more shit, but like different kind of like darker shit for longer and more frequently. Yeah, no, I like her. I think she's super cool. Why don't you like her? I don't remember. What's your deal?
I think it was after the Hawkeye series, to be fair, because I originally said after watching her in Black Widow, I really wasn't that enamored with her in Black Widow, and then seeing her more in Hawkeye, I was like, she's all right as a character. I just didn't see the fuss about her being so well loved in the cinematic universe. I've watched Hawkeye a couple of times more since then, and I've maybe eased a little bit on that harsh judgment I gave her first time round. I still think she's slightly overhyped. We need to see more of her anyway, for me to maybe be a bit kinder on my overall judgment. Yeah, I just thought she was quite generic. There was nothing overly special. Like you said in the comics, she's a B Black Widow anyway. Yeah. And I didn't feel like she offered too much extra here, apart from a slightly more. I mean, I suppose in the MCU anyway, you've got Natasha, who was always very smooth, very very on the nose with all of her comments and her slickness, and always having sort of everything that she needed to on the end of her fingers. And Yelena's a bit more quirky, a bit more light-hearted in a way, I guess.
And see, that's so like part of what like I liked about it so much was like very specifically their relationship and the way they play off of her, right? Like Black Widow Natasha is more like not put together, but just like she's much more of a spy. She plays like way closer to the chest. And then Yelena, literally, like especially like in the scenes where you get them side by side, just like actually felt so much like a little sister. You know what I mean? Like she felt like a little sibling that was just like, yeah, like I learned from you, and I can do the same things, and I'm gonna fucking do it better, and I'm gonna be way more fun about it. You know what I mean? And I really liked that dynamic, which like. I've talked a lot about, my favorite MCU is MCU that is a little bit more grounded. And like, I mean, again, just like a little bit more human, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just like getting the relationship between the two of them. Now granted, Black Widow, the movie, good movie. The end was stupid. Like her doing karate flips and running on the top of debris on a exploding island, like tone it down. And that's why but like that the exact opposite of that is why I liked Hawkeye so much. Is like with the exception of like the couple of scenes where he's got like the Pym arrows and like the large than life stuff, like that was a very like grounded street level, like as realistic as something in that world can be kind of thing. The whole workshop scene the second to last episode, I think it was, when he's like kind of building his arrows and they're making their plan, and like the fact that like the two of them were like super clumsy with each other. And the fucking Kate Bishop's costume reveal in that show, my favorite of any MCU costume reveal, like, because like they played it down so much. Like, do you remember what happens when she gets the shirt and it just rips off?
Yeah, it just rips off and she's there with it in the lift.
Like,
that it was what I was going to say, is the interaction and the bouncing off each other between Kate Bishop and Yelena was really good, and it did warm me up a little bit more towards Yelena because of that, having rewatched it as well. So yeah,
and I also really like Florence Pugh too. I thought she's good. She is good. I mean, have you got any recommendations for anyone? Yeah, is there anything that you're watching at the moment, or reading comic book wise at the moment that you would really, really recommend to anyone? Man, what am I reading and watching right now? It's been such a bonkers couple of months that it's been like hard to.
Or it could just be anything that you've watched recently that you really, really like and you think other people should see as well.
Reading right now, I am currently burning through Frank Miller's Daredevil run.
Oh, nice.
I got a comic book club here in town, and we're doing Man Without Fear, his like retelling of the origin.
Yeah.
And so I found some cool like hardcover editions, like I say early, like, not to talk about it like, ooh, I got early editions, but but what's they're like, by early I mean like 2000s, like early 2000s. Just like the format of like these particular ones I found are really cool, and I geek out about that kind of shit. But so I'm burning through that right now. As far as watching, like I said, I just finished watching Breaking Bad for like the millionth time. What am I watching that's new? Oh, I just started watching, and I'm a little bit late to the game on this one. But Vice Principals, have you seen it?
Oh no, I haven't. No.
So it's Danny McBride and Jody Hill. It's basically all of the people that made Eastbound and Down. Did you ever see that show?
Yeah.
And it's him, and I can't remember the other actor's name. He's in a bunch of shit. Let me look up this dork's name real quick. I like him a lot, but he usually gets like kind of small like bit role shit. Walton Goggins. I always forget his goddamn name. But they basically they play co-vice principals at this high school. The principal has to retire early because his wife is dying, and they both want the job, and they both want to fire the other one when they get the job. And then they end up hiring somebody from the outside, and so they make this like temporary alliance to try and like get this new principal fired, and like find dirt on her and like ruin her life and get her to leave, so that they can then again get the job and fire each other. So they're working with each other to get to a point where, and pretty silly concept, right? But like that world though, with like Eastbound and Down type humor, it's pretty funny. I'm about halfway through the first season right now.
Nice.
So that's my stuff. That's what I'm consuming right now. And then video games.
Always video games.
You ever play Axiom Verge?
I haven't, no.
So it's a Metroidvania kind of game. It came out like when Xbox One and PS 4 came out at the same time. It was one of the launch ones, in that it's one dude who like did everything on it, music and everything from the ground up. And I've been burning through that game as fast as I can right now. Like, one of my favorite platformers ever. I've been burning through that for like the third time right now because the new one, the second one, finally came out on Xbox, and I'm getting ready to dive into that.
Nice. I started Alien Isolation last week.
It's so scary.
I'm only about 2 hours into it, so I've only come across the Alien once so far. But yeah, I've been wanting to start that one for a while, so I'm
too
on the case of that one.
Alien is like one of my other like absolute all-time like complete favorite franchises, and like I've tried to play that game so many times, but I can't. Especially if you wear a headset and play. Like, do you know how like all that, like the game, the sound design and everything in this?
Yeah.
And like I can hear you talking and hear you breathing, and like you gotta hold your breath while you're playing, and like I can't play it without screaming. Like literally just like yelping from jump scares, which then get me killed because I've screamed. The alien knows where I am. But yeah, that game's cool as shit.
Well, but I was streaming it on Twitch, to be fair, when I started
Right.
playing it. So I'm going to try and keep doing that just so everyone can see whether I crap my pants or not when I'm playing it, because I do jump scare kind of easily. um, I'm waiting for Starfield to come out next month so I can jump on and have a crack at that as well. But what I've been watching most recently, actually, is I've been going through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with my other half. She's never seen it.
Nice.
So I've been taking her through that because I'm her Marvel guide and Star Wars guide to all things.
I never actually finished it.
Well, I've only ever. I think I've watched like series 1 to 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a few times. I never watched series 7 once. So it's sort of like I need to refresh for series 7. But I was just saying to obviously, it starts off pretty cheesy, and then when you get the sort of Winter Soldier tie-in and Hydra coming out of it, it gets a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
I was commenting in Marvel Discord the other day how I think they still did Grant Ward dirty with how they sort of seemed to run out of ideas for him and just had him basically killed off in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, taking her through that's quite interesting because she both loves and hates it at the same time. I think she hates how cheesy it is, but it's sort of an interesting story at times. So
That's cool.
we'll see next week. I'm going to be back with Ahsoka. Ahsoka starts next week with a double episode, which I'm obviously really looking forward to. As everyone knows, Star Wars is my jam, so I can't wait to get on that. You excited for Ahsoka at all? Are you going to be watching it, or do you really not give a crap?
No, I do. So I'm a big Star Wars guy too, but like they started churning out content so fast that I fell behind, and then I fell so far behind that it feels like insurmountable to catch up. But like I want to, you know what I mean? Like I've only seen like halfway through the second season of Mandalorian.
Ooh.
I haven't seen Boba Fett or Obi-Wan yet. A lot
Andor? Have you seen Andor?
no, I haven't. A lot of stuff got spoiled for me. Like I don't know what it was, but it was like COVID hit, everybody got locked down, and everybody on the internet just completely lost their asses and forgot like how spoiler rules work when you're posting online. Just everybody just like fucking disregard it. Oh, this episode came out 15 minutes ago. Let me make a public post about exactly what happened, like just beat for beat.
Oh yeah, it happened in Secret Invasion. Like there was a big. I don't know if you've seen Secret Invasion, but
I got 3 episodes left, and I haven't gotten any spoilers on that one.
Well, no. What I was going to say is, if you've seen episode 1, you've seen episode 1, yeah. So obviously Maria Hill dies at the end of that episode.
I know.
Within an hour of that episode being released, I was scrolling through TikTok and had it spoiled for me before I even got to watch it. So it was just you have to then go and pretend that you don't know anything about it, and just sort of like fuck's sake.
Yeah.
So yeah, no one gives a shit about spoiling anything anymore or not spoiling it for you.
Yeah, a lot of that shit happened, and I just like it kind of like it didn't turn me off, but it just made me go like, well, I guess there's no real rush to get this done. So I am stoked for it. It's on my list of once they get some free time, catching up on all that shit.
Oh yeah, you got a lot to catch up on.
I really
David,
do.
thank you so much for jumping on and joining me today. I really appreciate it. It's the first time we've ever chatted face to face. We've been in, like I said, the same sort of groups, and we've been friends on social media for quite a while. And I do love seeing your Instagram stories because you post a lot of funny stuff on there as well. To be fair,
so similar thing to this. Silcox lives in my city. His ex-wife's husband is in my band, and I'm at their house all the time, right? Like, nice. How long have like Silcox and I been buds on there? I only just met him in person for the first time like last year.
Nice.
It's wild.
It's been really good to have you on, but I really appreciate you doing it. Tell everyone at home where we can find you on social media. Your band's social media. Anything you want to plug, go for it.
Yeah. So Shipwreck Carpathos on everything. So any streaming service that you use, you can find us. Bandcamp is our favorite because you can support us directly. And then Harry Busey on my personal one, if you want to. I'm not that interested.
Well, thank you very much, bud. I really appreciate it. As I said, I'll be back next week where I'll be talking all things Star Wars and Ahsoka. I look forward to doing that. But until then, everyone take care, and we'll catch you later. Bye.
Later.